In this video, I'm going to share with you 4 scenarios on how a digital detox can significantly increase your chances to pass job interviews. Okay, so the digital space is designed to create addictive experiences. Okay, sometimes this is a positive thing, for things such as consuming educational content or even getting coached online. However, this addiction might not be always the best thing for you as a job interview candidate. Scenario number 1 here, building your story bank. So when building some stories that you want to share with your interviewers, what happens is most candidates will look up online for examples of similar stories. Hey, what did others do? Or even ask the AI to provide some sample answers for them, on the idea that, if you have a few examples, it will be easier for you to brainstorm. Okay, now, having looked over thousands and thousands of stories and thousands of candidates going through this process, I can tell you right from the start, an approach that of simply writing your stories down on paper is far more efficient, even if slightly uncomfortable for most candidates. Okay, this was the first scenario. Second scenario I'd like to talk about here is most candidates underestimate the time it takes for them to prepare a job interview. Okay, some candidates, for various reasons, don't have enough time to prepare these job interviews. Whereas a digital environment, is an environment designed to create addiction. So it's designed to eat your time, to keep you engaged into that feedback loop that they prefer, they monetize on. So basically, if you disconnect completely from the internet and just focus on one thing and do it well, that is again a far superior approach, right? Regardless what your goal would be, to answer interview questions, to prepare your subject matter expertise, anything pretty much. Okay. Third scenario I talk about here is that of using AI for job interviews. So there's a new trend spreading online like plague, of people rewarding their answers using AI. Okay, and I'd like to share with you a number of scenarios as to the explanations that people give for why they do so. Probably the most common of them would be, hey, Dan, my English is not perfect. As if anyone would pay a good amount of money because your English is perfect for the job interview, for the position that you're applying for. This does not really work. And furthermore, if you're really smart, you could use your lack of English speaking skills to eventually stumble a bit and win more time to find an even better answer during the time you provide your best answer to that question. Okay. The second argument here is that even though your AI will make answers sound better from a marketing perspective, you cannot prepare all answers for a job interview because you will receive questions for which you haven't prepared for. And what happens here is that at that time you will provide an answer, if you have an answer, that will be completely different from all previous answers. It will sound so terrible that it will create a sharp contrast between your previous and your existing performance. That's not your advantage. And the third scenario is that basically rewarding your answer using AI is a form of cheating in job interviews, and it's actually pretty easy for me as someone coaching people on a regular basis to spot if someone actually is reading from their computer screen an AI rewarded answer. And furthermore, it is incredibly simple to check online if an answer has been rewarded using AI, and I doubt that there isn't some provider who can do this in real time, because it's really not such a big deal, right? So long story short, AI rewarded answers, you'd better start spending your time on revising your stories, even on paper if you want. I know it's a lengthy process. I spent 1 year to develop one training program, and I know revisions took about 6 months of that time, but still, it pays off in the end. That's how you improve your interviewing skills and essentially the quality of your stories, right? And the fourth thing I'd like to talk about here would be cheat sheets. Okay, so now with the generalization of remote interviews and this digital medium to conduct these interviews, there is also the two scenarios here. First of all is many candidates like to keep their notes on their screens, and during the interview to have their interviewer on one hand and their notes on the left. And this, in my experience, actually distracts you from the actual conversation. I know this from coaching, that whenever I coach someone, whatever notes I make about them, I print them if I wouldn't eventually even write them somewhere on paper, So a good one-pager, a cheat sheet, if you want, is something that is far more works better when compared to keeping your cheat sheet online or on your computer screen. Okay, and the second scenario is some people prefer to keep their entire story bank right in front of them during the job interview, and they basically scroll all the way to the stories in the interview, and it's a cumbersome experience. Whereas an offline version of this method would be to keep a story wall just behind the camera, maybe a bit further down the camera, and to basically have a bird's eye view over your story bank whenever you're interviewing. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not recommending you to do this because, in my experience, this doesn't really work for most candidates. This only works for people who are already exceptional interviewers, so people who are really good at interviewing, already have their story banks. Many of these people are already certified coaches, so they really know what they're doing, and they do it in a scenario not necessarily to pass job interviews, but rather to eventually negotiate a better job offer, right? But long story short, your transition from an online approach to an offline approach would allow you a better approach to focus on what actually matters, both preparing but also while in the job interview. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.